Then in this practice of Kadampa, there is a special way to transform all difficulties that happen to us into the past. So we integrate everything that happens into our spiritual path. There are two ways one can look at it from the viewpoint of the relative bodhicitta or the ultimate bodhicitta. So from the viewpoint of the relative bodhicitta is whenever some suffering occurs to us in our life, then we take it, and this is what will help to transform our mind. We take it as something that helps us to transform our mind and gain bodhicitta. So when we say transforming circumstances into something that helps us to mature on the spiritual path, generally it talks of just the adverse circumstances, but one can add to that also positive circumstances in our life, happy moments, not just terrible moments. It's quite easy to transform adverse circumstances into the path, to integrate them to one's practice. But when we live happy moments in our life, it is much more difficult to make that part of the path. So it is not taught directly in the teaching, but indirectly one can infer it from the teaching on integrating adverse circumstances. So when something bad happens to us, it is relatively easy to transform that into something positive. For instance, say somebody is a big businessman and at one point they make really great lot of money, they're very successful. And then maybe the following year something goes very wrong and they become totally bankrupt and they're riddled with debts. So at that point they might suddenly feel that really what they've been into was quite senseless and they're better off stop doing business, and then they start practicing the Dharma very intently because they realize that what they did up to now was quite useless. And in a way the choice is fairly easy because it's so extreme. They have nothing left, they have nothing more to lose. So they realize that only Dharma can be of value to them at that point.
내가 좀 공양인데요. 제가 좀 강한데 내가 가르쳐 있었나? 그 왕나사 요 말이 주시에서 요는 누가 요 말이 단 냐네마도 내세서 요 말이 지금 뭐도 zambo는 되어라. 네가 없으면 냐네샤다. 얘가 저랑 내가 그래서 희야를 양 생무적으로 로도 양희야를 야대 조바가 없어. 때는 냐네한테 공 이제 하고 좀 강한데. 레콘트는 같이 나빈 같이 좀 하는 뭐
There's the example of a lama who was teaching the Dzogchen. Temple Watsu. And this lama was saying that he spent a lot of time in prison when after Tibet was taken over by the Chinese. He spent 10 or 15 or 18 years in prison for a very long time. And he said he'd never had such a fantastic opportunity for practice. It was when he was in there, he didn't have to give empowerment, to give teaching, to do anything. He could just spend his whole time practicing and meditating. And so he said that it's such a good way, because you can make any negative situation into a very positive one.
공중간에 말도 잘 때는 되는 뭐가 되는 도 세들이 나와나 드나 주기에 되는 사마야고 사고세 빼고 되는 야미면 되는 발체로 지리.
And also he'd added that even if they beat him up from time to time or whatever, then that was an opportunity to practice forbearance. So all of it concurred to make him practice in a very good way. But then when he came out of prison, then there were again disciples, people giving him offerings and good food, and then wanting his time, wanting teachings, wanting this and that, and then there was just no chance to practice it.
근데 공부선도 이 멤버들 그 값을 추 르지때 나 추를 가지만 우토 탑세서 당나 추도 마도 쳔메르데 추마도 쳔데 그 레사 미와 차네 이 잠부까때 당날 사제 요리 공제 요리 기보 단사리 디값을 추트는 뭐 없이 디땡하게 주리스.
And he was saying when you're in such extreme situations as in prison as he was, then there's nothing else that can mobilize your hopes. You just want the Dharma because there's nothing else in your life, and it's so important, it's the only light in your situation. So you give yourself to it wholeheartedly, and it's the only thing that counts. But then when you come out, and after that, life is not too bad, you've got food, you've got a roof, things go well, and life is pretty good. And then you tend to forget about Dharma.
He
said then you can to a point where you're quite wealthy, you're quite well off, life is easy, and then Dharma goes down the drain. You forget. So it happens like that for some people. Get very rich and then they forget all about that.
너는 찐 멤버 자무 이 간격도 있나야 냠니 때 없어야 되나 아니 주제 롱주다 반저도 속에 추저가라 가지요. So
it is said that if you can relate in this way to whatever happens to you, like when things are very tough, you can transform this. And when things are very easy, you don't forget, when you carry on practicing, then nothing ever is an obstruction to practice anymore. There's no more adverse circumstances at all.
Jesse Morche Tommy, Tarajun, Jesse Valley, Zamon Dela, Sajak gave it to Jivari. Then Namana to Chudrop to the now to category. Now the Chudrop to some of the categories, the console, Nana Navega, Nasa, the grip that way. So, 양 주주지 gebjo지 봐 데트 타고 치니 소리 나나 가서 가르리는 나나 나도 그때 지와 나마가 레드 드바다 나 추추도 그때 레드 타고 치들이야 때 추주는다나 hit도 된다나 나나야 가리
there was a Sakya Geshe who came to see Rinpoche Tome, and he said to him, what's difficult is that when you're sick, you can't really practice, so how do you relate to that? And Rinpoche Tome said to him, well, when you're sick, even though you can't practice formally, then you have to think that you are purifying a lot of obscurations and faults from your past lives, and that this in itself is practice, and that when you are well again, then you can renew with formal practice, but it is practice to purify all one's obscurations and faults. So you don't need to feel down, you just do it and enjoy it, and rejoice that you're getting rid of what's come to you.
근데 나한테 조조는 가사 아다워스 칸도 예티 나만 메데 가데 리스데나 gebjor 밀토지 세바야 고소르게 줘줘 나와 미나 디가사 요마서 야 데베제가 제르면 르데나 샘데리 르샘데나 그랑 gebjor에 고 gebjor 니마레 데니랑 geb와 드치티 콤판 로베 데 콤파 소나 되니 담저지 물을 뭐지 동요 바지 차가 요래야 되니 만나나 대외적가 그래.
So when one is sick, one can rejoice in the fact that one is eliminating a lot of negative karma, and when one is well, one can feel happy that one has this good positive state, and this helps one to really use one's precious human life to the best of its opportunities.
근데 저 첨부 저 메디 책거를 추주 탑 차다다 저 메디 책거를 땅보 가서 땅고를 있어도 되니 소남지 초 사제 요사